So what we're going to be talking about is describing a graph. Now, we've done a bunch of stuff with making graphs, and I'm going to tell you some of these graphs are going to be things that are going to feel like, oh, I know what to do with this. This seems like this is a line. Clearly, you know what this is. But like, if I look here, this is a graph of something. We do not know what this is called, and it's fine that you don't. Most of what we're going to be doing when we describe graphs is we're going to be talking about some of the things that you see here. Intercepts, increasing or decreasing, what the shape is, maximums and minimums. So I want to hit those one at a time with each thing here. So my first question is, does anybody here know when I'm talking about this, do you know what it means if I have an intercept? Do you guys know what that means? And don't worry about it. If you get kicked out, just keep coming in. Does anybody know what an intercept is if we're talking about a graph? We've talked about it a little bit, but I want to make sure we have the idea as to where this is. Does anybody have that? Would you guys write that in the chat if you do? Okay, somebody said no, and I think that's pretty good. We can sort of talk about this now. If I'm talking about an intercept, it is always in the graph. And Kane, you're right, it is when it crosses. So this is, an intercept is when it crosses an axis. And it doesn't matter which axis it is, the label of the intercept is what tells me the label of the axis. And you can have more than one, but right now we have a y-axis and we have an x-axis. So when I'm going to be talking about the intercepts, that means if I want a y-intercept, it means what point is it that it crosses the y-axis. So all you got to do is look for my graph. And these are always going to be, when we look at these are always going to be ones that are like red graphs of some sort. We see right where it crosses, and that looks like right here. So I can put a mark there or circle it. In this case, our y-intercept is it crosses the y-axis at 3. Now, when we say that, we want to put it as a point. So our x is 0, our y is 3. Now, anytime we're talking about intercepts of a graph, one of these variables is going to be 0. So for a y-intercept, the x is always going to be 0. And that isn't going to really impact us a whole lot here. But when we go on, we're going to start to do some things with the algebra. We may include that as we go. So our y-intercept here is 0, 3. Good to go. We look at the x-axis. Our x-intercept, well, let's look for a second. X-intercept, we go all the way over here. What number is it where it crosses? Can somebody write it in the chat for me? Where does it cross my x-axis? 6 is correct. Right there at the 6. And so here, what I have to do then for this one is I'm going to write that the x value is 6 and the y value is 0. So if you think about it, my x-intercept, we have an x value of 6. By y-intercept, we have a y value of 3, and the other one has to be a 0. Now, intercepts is something we've done a bunch of, and even with a weird graph like this one, you could still see where they cross. Now, you guys notice we got 3 places where it crosses the x-axis. That's okay. That tells me some things. We have one y-intercept, we've got 3 x-intercepts. As long as you can say what they are, you are describing the graphs. So what we're going to do with these, we describe the graph, intercepts. We got a y-intercept here and an x-intercept there. We have taken care of that. Now, I want you to tell me, so we're going to talk about increasing or decreasing. Some graphs, like this line, are really easy for us to talk about being increasing or decreasing because they go specifically in one direction. This one goes in this direction. Now tell me, is this increasing or decreasing? What do you think? Does this increase or decrease? If you look at the graph, what is it doing? Someone's got to make a guess for me. Because if you make a guess, then it's easy for me to fix it if it's wrong, or it's easy for me to confirm it if it's right. So somebody tell me in the chat, is this graph of this line an increasing line or a decreasing line? Okay, so somebody made a guess privately, and somebody made one that was not. They said increasing. And here's what I want you to think about. It's actually hard to tell. And that's the part about this that's important. I always think of it this way. I read a graph like I read a book from left to right. So if I'm going from left to right, does the value go down or does the value go up? And in this case, what the y value is doing is getting smaller as I go to the right. So this would be something that I would call a decreasing, let me type here, sorry about that, a decreasing graph for this reason. Because as this goes to the right, the graph goes down. And so this would be decreasing because of the fact that this goes down. But this is another way that we can write it. As x increases, so as I go to the right, y decreases, which is a way that we can talk about it. But generally, it just means, does it go downhill or uphill as we go this way? So like if I look like this one right here, doesn't even matter what type of graph it is. This one seems to be going up, so I could say increasing. This one here seems to be going down, so I could say decreasing. But the problem is you're going to get things like this. This doesn't decrease or increase. So we can't use that to describe this one because we got two different directions. So that's why you want to have a way of talking about it as you're going in this direction, okay? That's one that we may need to talk more about. But does that kind of make sense to you when I say this one going downhill, why this decreases? Talk to me. If you have any questions about that, let me know. Okay. So shape. Now, there's some shapes that have names and others that do not. And if you know the name of the shape, you want to sort of describe it. Sometimes you don't, and that's okay. Guys, what do we call this? What is this red thing here called? Do you guys know? What do we call this? Oh, for real. Somebody's got to be able to write it. What is the red thing on this line? I told you, fools. Did you hear me? I said it out loud. I'm mad at myself, not mad at you. I called you fools, but I shouldn't call you fools. What word did I just say to describe this red thing on here? It's a line. You got to type that. This is a line. If you have something that you know the name of, like this one, you got to say it. This is a line. We'll get to know more of them. These are kind of like families of graphs happen. So a graph looks like this. It's called this type of thing. But generally, when we talk about the shape, if we can name it, let's name it. If we can't, we just kind of got to talk about what it looks like. So like, hey, see that one? That one looks like a U, right? Whether I know what it's called or not, I can say it's got the shape of a U. This one looks like an upside down V. We can call it that. This one, oh, I would say like it's a down sloping curve. If you don't know the name of it, it's okay, but that's kind of the way you want to talk about these things. Now, maximums or minimums. When we talk about a maximum or minimum, we are talking about a value that is the highest or the lowest here, okay? Now, this is a line. That means it goes forever this way and forever this way. There isn't a place where there's a maximum or a minimum value. A thing like this, well, we got a place where it starts. This would be a minimum, and then everything goes up from there. Or if I look at that, this has a top point, so this would be a maximum value. But with this one, because it's a line, we don't have any of those. So what we would have to write is there are no max or min values because it's a line. Now, I want you to think about everything I have here. I've got my intercepts. I told you it's decreasing. I say it's a line. There are no maximum minimum values. It is all about describing what you see. That is our goal today. Can you describe what you see? And so we've gone through this first one to sort of show you what that's going to look like. And you've got lots of places where you can draw on the graph. You can say, this right here, that is my y-intercept. That's terrible, but I can do it. There's a y-intercept. Yay, look at me writing. Okay, I'm saying this to you not because I want you to draw all over these, but because sometimes it's going to be easier for us to talk about them. So with this activity, here's what I'm going to want you to do. I'm going to go back to the summary and see. We've got 4 people in. I am going to take the invitation and I'm going to throw it in the chat for everybody, for you guys to come in and do this. This is going to be the activity for us to go in and do this kind of together. And I want to talk about them sort of one graph at a time to see what sorts of pieces do you see? What does this look like? How do you guys do this? And sort of see what you guys are marking it up, because I want you to have some practice with, can you write some things about the intercepts? Can you write some things about the maximum or the minimum? Can you talk about increasing or decreasing? I just want to sort of see what you guys do. This isn't a lot of grading stuff, but normally in a school year, this is where we begin everything. Like we start off by looking at graphs and describing them and seeing what we can do. We haven't had much of a chance to do that, but we realized as we were looking at what we've accomplished this year, we haven't really gotten to that. So right now, if you go to your chat, there's a link to this Desmos activity. And I would really like for you to go in, click on the Desmos activity, and get a chance to start this. We've got a good group of kids in here right now. I think there's probably 20 students in. All I want you guys to do is just go in here and do this. This isn't like a quiz grade or anything like that, but it will help you to go in and do this. So right now I see 5 students in. If you guys could make sure you go to the chat, click on that link and get in there. I'd love to see more than 5. I mean, I'd like to get us up to about 10 kids at least before I get started moving, but I think it'll be helpful to you to kind of go in and do this. Currently, we're recording me talking about this, about you guys going in. So for real, guys, you got to go in. Come on, here we go. You see it? It's in the chat. There we go. More people in. That is solid. So I've only got 6 in. Until I get 10, I'm not going to start going over anything. So if you haven't clicked on this yet, even if you're not going to do a bunch, get in there so you get a chance to kind of see what it looks like, because this is the way that the tests and quizzes are going to look. And I want you to have some practice working with them so that when you have a test or a quiz, you can go, oh, I remember doing this. And then you guys can do this on your own. So right now I got 6 people in, and I appreciate those 6 people. Anybody else in this group right now that has not clicked on the link, let's get you in there. So if you're in here right now, let's start doing this. I'm going to start calling out names that I know are here already and see if you guys will go in. So Ruben or Torrance, let's get you in there. Angel, you're in there. Let's go. Kane, you can click on this. That'd be fine too. What about, I know that there's some, oh, Kane, I see you in there. I'm sorry. I called you out and I'm dumb. That's my fault. Again, I can call myself out for being dumb as well. Ryan, I'd like to see you in there. Do I have Amaya? Amaya, you can go in there. Uzziah, get in there. I don't want to hear you. I don't want to. Get in there. Chandler, come on. Ruben, I see you. Thank you. Aaliyah's in there. All right, we got 2 more, and then I stop bugging you. All you got to do is click on it. It's not even like I'm going to make you do anything. Just get in there. I don't want to, slacker. All right, 1 more, guys. 1 more time. 1 more time. Come on, 1 more person click on this. Uzziah, there, you're in. We got 10, guys. Chandler, you're in too. We're at 11. See, you've made me happy, everybody. That's all we need. Okay, so here's what I want you to do. Legitimately, let's everybody go to the second screen because I'm going to go through that. It is the same general ideas. And what I want to be able to do is sort of talk about how to do this. So if you guys want to go to screen 2 to do this, that'd be awesome because you guys can do this along with me. I'm going to show you in the chat or show you on the screen what it's going to be and what we're talking about. And if you'll notice, they're going to ask the questions exactly this way. Describe the graph addressing the following characteristics: intercepts, increasing, decreasing, shape, maximums, and minimums. So you already have what you need. My suggestion, especially because, guys, when I grade these things, if people are having trouble with this stuff, my biggest concern is that people don't write things down. So they're like, meh, and they log in and they know crap. Logging in and not doing crap means they don't get you any points. So start off with this. Write these things. Intercepts, increasing, decreasing, shape, max/min. So right now, I have a place to type whatever I'd like. So these are the 4 things that I need to be able to address because they're this list. So now, I mean, clearly my typing is terrible, but it doesn't matter. Now let's start talking about this. Intercepts. Okay, we can only have 2 types. We can have y-intercept and we can have x-intercept. So I'm going to type those. And so now let's find them. First, let's look at the y-intercept. And I'm going to use a different color because it's kind of fun. My y-intercept is this point right here. All right. Max and minimum, I'll get to in just a second. Let me make sure we can talk about this part first. When we're doing this, the y-intercept is going to be that 1. So I'm going to type in here 0, 1, because that is the point for that. Then I'm going to come back over. And my x-intercept is where it crosses the x-axis. That's here. And that is at that -3. So I'm going to put this here as -3, 0. All right. 2 places done. Now, increasing or decreasing. What I think about is it starts at a point, and then as I go to the right, does it go up or down? You guys tell me, does it go up or does it go down as I go to the right? What direction is this going? It's going up. If this goes up as I go to the right, we say that this is an increasing graph. If it goes down to the right, then we know that it's a decreasing graph. Now we talk about the shape. Guys, I'm just going to say that this is a curve going up because I don't have the name of this. Now I could tell you the name of this, but I don't want to do that right now. Right now, I just want you to think about the way that the shape works and describe it. The max and the min is talking about, are there any values? Like you see this going off to the edge. This just keeps going. So is there a point that is the lowest or the highest of this? And so when I look, this point right here appears to be the lowest point on the graph because everything starts here and then goes up from there. So this appears to be what I would call a minimum value because nothing is below this and everything goes up from there. So I would say here, you have a minimum at, and then you say whatever the point is. Here, the x is -4, the y is -1. So -4 comma -1, close it out. And that tells us everything that we need to know about this. Now, what I do to help get more sort of points for this, if I'm going to do this as a, as an actual quiz or a test, I would literally come here and do this. I would circle that, and my writing's terrible, so let's text it next to it. If I did minimum right there, I can at least label what it is, even if I don't know what the point is. I'd love for you to have all your information here, but if you've got them labeled here and you want to be able to see this, like if you came over here and said, all right, well, as I look at this, change this right here, I'm going to write, well, that right there, that is my y-intercept. And then you'd say over here, well, if I go and do this, this right here is my x-intercept. It at least gives me a place where I can look at it to see, all right, there's my x-intercept, there's my y-intercept. This student clearly knows where they are. Even if they haven't written it over here, at least I have it so I can see what that thing is. Does that make sense to everybody, what I'm looking for? Because we got about 7 minutes left in class. And I'd like to go through a couple of the weird ones here. We're going to talk more about this tomorrow. And I want to make sure that we can spend a little time on this to see what's going to happen. But more than anything, I just wanted to make sure we're kind of in the same place. So like when we get to these, this is the one that's going to be the weirdest because we got a lot of stuff to deal with there. But let's sort of get to increasing degrees of weirdness as we go. Why don't we just say straight up, this will be our last one. Number 3 is going to be our last one. And I would love for you to go in and do this. So like if I look at my teacher version, nobody's done anything here. Did anybody do anything for number 2? Yeah, I got some people that wrote some things down. That's awesome. And that's kind of what I'm looking for, guys, is for you to get sort of some practice at this. Let's talk about 3 and see what we can kind of come up with. And again, before I do it, and I mean this because you'll get points when you start to do this. Write this crap down. Intercepts. Increasing, decreasing. Now you notice I didn't write the whole word. Inc, dic, that's fine. Shape, max, min. You have a place to take care of everything, and then you can either type them in here or write them over here or both. So, all right. Who can tell me one of them? What are we looking at here? Let's start with intercepts. Somebody tell me this is this. What do we got? Give me a name of something. Say x-intercept or y-intercept and tell me what it is. Anybody? We only got 5 minutes. Take a look at this shape. Tell me, can you see either an x-intercept or a y-intercept or both? Somebody's saying 3. 2 people said 3. Okay, well, let's look at that for a minute. If I'm talking about my 3, this is the 3 you're talking about, right? So that's the 3. Is that an x-intercept or a y-intercept? It is a y-intercept because it is a place where it crosses that y-axis. So what I need to do is over here, I'm going to do y-intercept. I'm going to say that point. It is 0, 3. Boom. Let's talk about the x-intercept for a second. So if we're going to do that, what are the x-intercepts? What are the x-intercepts? How many do I have? I see it. Jemiah said 1 and 3. So if I look over here, nope, not the text. I need this. If I look over here, I got 1 at 1. And I got 1 at 3 right there. So these are two places where it crosses. And sometimes when a curve goes down and back up, that is going to give us two different points. So if these are both of my x-intercepts, then I need to be able to write them both over here. Now, let's think about that for a second. So here it's the 1 at 1. We know that the x is a 1 and the y is a 0. So 1, 0 is one of them. We have another one at 3, 0. And it's okay to have more than one thing. That's totally fine. You just have to make sure that you count them both. Okay. Now, this is a weird shape. Increasing or decreasing. Here's the problem. Because it swoops like this, I would say for this one, you would say neither increasing or decreasing because it goes down to a point and then goes back up. So it does both, kind of. So does anybody know, what would you call this shape? Look at this and tell me, what's the name of this shape or how would you describe it? Actually, Uzziah, you did it. You called it a U shape. You can call it a U shape. Does anybody know what the name of it is? I'll be impressed if you do. Starts with a P. A-R-A-B-O-L-A. Parabola. That is what it is called. Now, take a look at this and you tell me, does this have a maximum value or a minimum value as we look at this? Does this shape have a maximum or a minimum? Because I look, it goes down to a point and then it comes all the way back up. So these both go up in the top and the bottom, up in both directions. If you look down here, that looks like a minimum value to me. So what I would do is say there's a minimum. And if that's my minimum, we have to say what that point is. So min at 2, -1, and we're in good shape. And that tells us sort of what's happening here. It goes down to a point and then comes back up. It's actually called the vertex of our parabola when we get to it. But that's how we describe these shapes. Now, tomorrow, we'll come back in and do some more of this stuff here and make sure that we kind of get the idea. But ultimately, this is what I'd like for us to be able to do. We've only got about a minute left. So I'm going to ask, does anybody have any questions before I let you guys go? I'm going to stop sharing and I'm going to stop recording as well.